Hello YouTube Ready Reptiles here with another video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the Aldabra tortoise, specifically my little guy Aristotle. I'm going to be talking about growth rates, diet, where they come from, specific needs for the Aldabra. So I wanted to come on here, share that with you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video and let's get started. Alright guys, so to start off I want to talk about just the overall, kind of description of the Aldabra tortoise and what they're more or less known for. So as we know, the Aldabra tortoise is the second largest tortoise in the world behind the Galapagos. And interchangeably, you have some males of the Aldabras that get larger than the Galapagos and then vice versa. But generally, the Galapagos is always the largest and the Aldabra comes second. Now, and there's cases that there have been male Aldabras almost reach 800 pounds. And obviously, Galapagoses can reach, the 600-700 pound mark as well. So, like I said, it kind of interchanges. But just to kind of start off, we can notice here that this tortoise is a very high domed animal. Right here, the top part of a tortoise's shell, for those that don't know, is called the carapace. So the carapace basically formulates the top part of the shell, and the bottom part right here, which you can see it's flat on this guy right now, is the plastron. So that's kind of a differentiational way to kind of understand the terms and the anatomy of a tortoise shell. Lots of other things go into play with this, but we notice that this animal is a very high dome shell. They're known for that. Once they get older, they're going to start getting a more and more high domed animal, more or less as you guys see with the big adults that are out there. Obviously I don't own any right now, but I will be also making videos with my friend Jason Abel, so I will be able to show you guys adults of these animals as well. But just in this case, like I said, you can see the animal getting that high dome shell. Also, we noticed that this animal has a nice, very smooth shell as well, and that is because I always soak it and it's getting the proper diet and all the needs that it is necessary for the Aldabra. And then obviously on this animal, we noticed that it has a double scoot, which is basically an incubation imperfection. So that leads me to believe that Aristotle might be a female just because it was a higher temperature. But also another thing to kind of take into note is you can see the face of the Aldabra is a more softer face, larger eyes, more of a pointier nose versus the Galapagos that has a kind of a wider, broader head as well. And then the biggest key factor right here, you can kind of see this little thing right here, which is called a Nuchal Scoot. The Aldabras actually will have this and Galapagoses won't. There are cases as well where you find Aldabras without the Nuchal Scoot, but there's other things that you can kind of take into play to kind of understand the difference between the two. Like I said previously, the softer face, kind of more smiling looking animal. So I just wanted to kind of highlight the tortoise in itself. Obviously it is a black tortoise, browns, blacks, very dark colored shell, and it's very sought after. It's a beautiful animal, which makes it a vulnerable animal in its native state. So the conservation status of this animal is vulnerable. It is not critically endangered, but there once was a decline in these animals. But obviously in their native range, they have set up a great conservation program where you're able to produce these animals in different populations and different territories over there in the Seychelles, and they can import them. There's also lots of captive breeding going on here in the United States. So that's a little bit about the kind of anatomy and the overall description of the Aldabra tortoise. So for the people who don't know, the Aldabra tortoise comes from the Seychelles Islands. So the Seychelles Islands is basically somewhere in the Indian Ocean. It is an island off of the coast of Africa, so more towards the Madagascar part of it. So we kind of have a similar habitat to that of a radiated tortoise as well. This animal obviously is an island dweller, so being that it's such a large animal on that island, it does not have any natural predators, but of course they do face poaching and obviously illegal import and export of the illegal animal trade. That's why humans are their #1 destroyer. Obviously they have to take into play the fact of having natural disasters in their area. Since it is an island, they are automatically put on the endangered species list, or an animal that can become extinct very easily, just because if a large tsunami, a large hurricane, an earthquake can destroy the island very fast. Also, being that they come from the Seychelles, you have to understand where they come from is the Aldabra Island specifically, and it's called an Aldabra atoll. So for those that don't know, an atoll is a resurfaced coral reef. So basically all the coral has died, all the rock-like structure kind of resurfaces into the area, and it's a very jagged limestone sort of area where these guys will dwell on. So if we see the anatomy of this tortoise, like I explained previously, just besides shell structure, you can see the front of the animal. Lots of big elephantine-like feet and legs here for a very nice variety of placement, big nails. They do not need flat areas, so that's one thing that I'm going to explain later on when I show you guys its enclosure, or when you do, or if you are going to get an Aldabra or even like a Galapagos. and other species of tortoise as well, but just to kind of understand the habitat it comes from. It is not a flat area, lots of rocky outcrop. Obviously it's a more volcanic region as well. They do have volcanoes. They do live in an area where, like I said previously, it's lots of jagged limestone and lots of pockets where they can hide in, go over, climb over roots. They live where there is a lot of mangroves as well. So that is very cool to see, because it's an animal that, you know, obviously it's so large, but it does live in an area where it kind of has a puzzle-like thing where it has to kind of figure out, think a little bit, and use the natural kind of jungle gym that is presented to them to kind of, you know, go about these surfaces and areas where they are living in. So I wanted to share that with you guys, talk a little bit about where they're from, and in the next clip I'll show you guys habitat, talk about diet, and other little key factors specifically for the Aldabra tortoise. We are inside the Aldabra's pen. So right now I only have one Aldabra tortoise in here, and this pen is about 8 by 8. It is a very nice size enclosure for this Aldabra, and obviously it's enough space for it to kind of roam around, hide itself, get in and out of the heat, which I'll show you now with this little shelter that we've made for it. But just to kind of talk about this, so when you do keep an Aldabra tortoise, or pretty much any tortoise, you want a food area. So as you can see where the tortoise is right now, I would feed it there. Obviously I place it on the plate so like that it's not eating any pebbles or anything, but if I did have to feed it on the grass, it would have not, you know, harmed it whatsoever. Obviously we have a nice water dish. In this case I have a water dish that's a little bit elevated and it has a rocky out structure, so like that it kind of simulates a more of a natural environment. So that goes back to what I was saying. Aldabra tortoises are not an animal that lives in a flat area. So as you can see in this enclosure, I've let it overgrow. It has a little bit of halations and stuff. So like that, the Aldabra tortoise is using its entire body structure. It's using all the muscles in its leg, and it's using basically the back pads like I explained before, which is more like an elephantine pad, and it's placing the whole pad on the ground versus just having kind of a tippy toe kind of like setting. So if we can see here, the tortoise is using all of its structures, using all of its muscles, and that is very important. So here's a little bit of an overview of this enclosure, this habitat here. Obviously it is nice and well, it has shaded parts as you see. It's got enough area for it to bask. The tortoise loves to kind of put itself in the corners. You can kind of see the corners are kind of dug out. And then if I turn my attention over to the shelter area, which I have it blocked right now just so that the animal wouldn't go inside, because I wanted to show you guys for the video, but you guys can see that inside here the animal has a nice cool area where it's able to get in out of the sun. And obviously it is at a lower point in elevation where the tortoise is able to, you know, kind of, you know, obviously have different structures where it is not walking on a flat surface, which I want to explain severely because I see that a lot with keepers getting into tortoises such as the Galapagos, such as the Aldabra, and they don't understand that these animals do not come from flat areas, more or less like a sulcata. Even then you want to provide higher kind of, you know, areas. But as you see by him walking around, or her walking around, going in and out of the water dish, kind of able to use the different structures, present itself in different ways. It's using all of its you know, feet and all the muscles in its leg, and that's very important. So that's kind of a little bit about the overall kind of enclosure. It's a more simple habitat. Here in a little bit I'm going to be actually moving the place of this habitat because I want to use this space to expand the new sulcata tortoises like I shared in other videos past. But I want to add a nice little, you know, other area for this guy, maybe make it a little smaller just so like that I can monitor it a bit better, because it doesn't use all of the space, but I do give it the option to. All right, so when it comes to diet of the Aldabra tortoise, it's basically like any grassland species. So it would be more or less similar to that of a sulcata tortoise. So high fiber things, orchard grass, alfalfa hay to a minimum. You want to do more timothy and orchard grass, of course. If you can't find just orchard grass, try to find a 50-50 mix, which they'll kind of mix alfalfa and orchard together. Or if you can just find timothy, that works as well. You want to feed produce. Obviously, we're supplementing produce in their diet because they wouldn't be getting nice, you know, leafy greens in the wild like that. But obviously, romaine, escarole, green leaf lettuce, red leaf lettuce, collard greens. You want to keep kale to a very minimum. Actually, I've heard that for Aldabra tortoises it's not good to feed kale, so maybe kind of avoid that for this species. When it comes to fruit, they also cannot handle high sugary content. So when I do feed fruit, I like to feed watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew as a form of hydration. So as you guys see, I soak this baby, you know, pretty much every day in direct sunlight for 30 to 40 minutes. Obviously clean water, very monitored as well, but also offer water inside the enclosure as well. So it has lots of options for hydration. So if you are going to feed sugary content like fruit, you know, you can do bananas. I know they like bananas a lot. So just kind of keep that to a little bit of a minimum as well. Obviously, if you're going to offer prepared diets such as Missouri tortoise diet, you also want to do that in moderation as well, just like everything. So take that into key. But you know, they pretty much have a very similar digestive process to that of a sulcata tortoise. Now, it is known in the wild that these animals will kind of perch up. Same with the Galapagos tortoises, and if they have the opportunity to kind of crush a bird under them, they will do that and pick at it. It's not you know, uncommon that they do that. But obviously, here in captivity, we're not feeding lots of protein. I really wouldn't even feed protein in general to these guys, so more or less avoid that. Another great staple for them is organic spring mix. They really enjoy that, so you want to keep their diet to, remember, high fiber, low sugar, low oxalate, and low protein. So that is the kind of a overall view of the diet of a Aldabra tortoise. So as you guys see right here, Aristotle is soaking right now. It's next to the radiated and the two sulcata tortoises. But I just wanted to stress that this is a very important part of keeping baby tortoises in general. But if you were to get an Aldabra tortoise as well, they have been known to be found swimming in the ocean. So yes, this is a tortoise that more or less kind of floats. Now, I would not recommend making your animal swim whatsoever. As you can see, he is touching the bottom of the tub, but the water level is very high. So like that, it's a good way to kind of have an enrichment. Obviously, I'm hydrating the animal staying clean. I can notice if it is pooping, peeing correctly, dropping any calcium deposits in the water, and it's also a #1 form of hydration. So right now the sun isn't out, but normally when I do soak, the sun would be, you know, this tubs would be in direct sunlight, so that's offering the essential UVB, UVA rays for these tortoises, so like that we can avoid metabolic bone disease through, you know, other diseases like that, and obviously have nice, beautiful bone structure and shell structure. Alright, so before I end the video, I want to talk a little bit about growth rates because I promised I would speak on it just a bit. So right now, the Aldabra tortoise, I believe is almost about 8 inches from the top of the shell to the bottom of the shell. We do not measure it from the top, we measure from the under just because it's a more accurate measurement. And obviously it weighs right now about 2,100 grams, and that was a month ago, so I'm sure it's significantly a little bit larger already at this point while I'm recording this. But for those that are going to get an animal like this, they honestly grow about ½ an inch a month. So you know, you're about getting an inch of growth every 2 months here, so that is a very fast-paced growth rate for a tortoise. Obviously, like I explained in the beginning of the video, they are the second largest tortoise in the world, so they do get very large, and they can get very large very quick. So that's something to kind of consider if you're going to get this animal and you live in an area where you're not able to keep it outside, or an area where, you know, obviously it's indoor setting. These animals obviously thrive 100% better when you keep them outdoors. I have not kept this animal indoors for any part of its life, only when it does get winter here, and that is just about 2 days out of the year where we get the like very, very deep colds where I have to just bring the animal in and make sure that it's nice and warm. In the case if this animal was already 600 pounds, I obviously would have a heated shelter where the animal would be able to be fit in, and I would be able to lock it obviously with the ample heating structure for it. But yeah, that's just a little bit about the growth and kind of more or less what you want to do if you're going to be keeping it indoors or outdoors. Another thing that I want to talk about, this animal's enclosure right now has the top off, but if you guys turn your attention here, I keep some screens on top of it, even though the animal is big enough to where a bird will not be able to take it you know, into the air, or for example if a raccoon or something were to get in here, which never happens because I don't have a lot of those in my area, but you know, I just could take that kind of precautionary measure, and I like to just place it on top of the enclosure so that I'm able to you know, have a better safer, you know, kind of management for the animal. And obviously he is next to the big sulcata tortoise pen, and obviously we got Buster there, so I don't really have to worry about this animal being around. And obviously my dog Louie is always running around kind of protecting the backyard. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Subscribe, rate, comment, likes, and see my fellow herpers. For more content like this, you can check me out on Instagram at Ready Reptiles, and also on TikTok at Ready Reptiles. I post daily there, so you can keep up with me and my animals. And obviously, if you want more videos like this, make sure to like, make sure to comment down below what you guys want to see. I appreciate all the support that I've been getting. Thank you so much, and hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and thanks for watching.